Okay, guys, maybe some of you guys are hearkening back to the good old days before I had a green screen and a way to hold the camera, and so I'm out in the backyard just doing a quick video. I wanted to thank everybody for participating in the Carnivore survey. We got the 10,000 responses in a little over 24 hours, so great job, community, for getting out there and participating. So I'd like to share some of the preliminary results. Before I talk to that, I want to address a question that comes up not infrequently, and someone asked me about this today, so I decided I would make a video on this. And so this is something that we see a lot of people when they go on a carnivore diet. Sometimes they'll see elevations in markers of kidney health or potential markers of kidney health, things like blood urea nitrogen, serum creatinine, and possibly problems with GFR. And so I wanted to sort of talk about that in a little bit and what you may want to do to check if you fall into that category. And so typically what people will often do is they'll look at their serum creatinine, which is a blood test, and if it's elevated, that sometimes can indicate perhaps there is a problem with the kidneys. Very often high protein diets will lead to an elevation of serum creatinine. Large amounts of muscle mass, heavy activity, all of those things can lead to higher levels of serum creatinine. Sometimes hydration status can have an impact on that as well. And then the glomerular infiltration rate, which is calculated on a formula, is based on serum creatinine levels. And so we may see just a simple sort of assumption that there might be a kidney problem based on merely higher protein intake. And that's not necessarily true. And so there is another test that is not dependent on protein intake, which many people think are more reliable for truly indicating what's going on with the kidneys. And that's something called a cystatin C test. It's another serum test, and that cystatin C is not affected by protein intake, muscle mass, exercise, and those things where glomerular infiltration rate might be. And so if you are concerned about renal function, if you have an elevated creatinine or an elevated BUN or a GFR that you think might be questionable, what I would suggest is you talk to your doctor about getting a cystatin C. That is something that is going to sort of take away that confounder of protein intake, and I think many people will find that that number is normal. And in fact, as I've been seeing people on this carnivore diet, I've seen a lot of people actually regain kidney function, even people with chronic kidney disease. So remember that, cystatin C, okay? Another thing I just want to mention out there, there's probably something we're probably going to do a carnivore camp. Myself and probably Chris Bell, we're probably looking at doing it kind of like a, almost like a, what do you call it, a reality TV show where we take people and we kind of put them in a house for 6 weeks or so and put them on a carnivore diet and do some other lifestyle modifications and just track to see what happens. And so that's several months down the road. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We might be looking for volunteers to help with that. We may be looking for people that want to volunteer to be the participants. So that's, again, that's in the works. I'd like to put in a just a recommendation for Butcher Brox. They are someone that sponsors me. Like I said, I eat their meat every single month. I get a box from those guys. I found it to be high quality. I think it's a good grass-fed product, grass-finished product. I think if you guys are looking for a good option for that, that is a good one, and the link for that is in my bio. All right, or in my description rather. So I'm gonna talk about some of the results, just the basic demographics. I'm not gonna listen to all of them, all the results today. I'm gonna kind of just go through some of the initial ones, and then in subsequent videos I'll go through some of the rest of the results. But interesting to say, the results are pretty compelling. We did get 10,000 people participating, which is not a small amount. There's a lot of people in there. I mean, sure, there's survivorship bias and there's all kinds of things you can complain about it being a study. But again, when an anecdote is 3 or 4 people, yeah, but once you start getting around 10,000 people, you start to take notice of trends, and you can put all these criticisms about not being pure science and whatnot, but there is a point where you have to start listening to the massive sort of quote-unquote wisdom of the crowds. All right, so first the question we asked was just how old people were, and so we broke them down in 10-year groups, starting with age 15 We went up all the way up to 75 plus, and so the numbers look like this. So the people that were, and what I'll do is I will put these up in my Instagram account. I'll put a series of slides on my Instagram account so you guys can look at those and see the questions, because I'm not going to put them on a YouTube video today. So if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, and shame on you if you don't, it'll be there. It'll be in my post. I'll probably do it either tonight or tomorrow, and so you guys can see the results of the early survey results, that what I'm saying is accurate if you kind of doubt what I'm saying. Anyway, so the 15 to 24 group was about 7% of the population. The 25 to 34 represented about 25% of the population. 35 to 44 was 27%. 45 to 54 was 22%. 55 to 64 was 12%, and then 65 plus was about 5%. So most people clustered in that 25 to 55 range, which is what I would expect. So no surprises there. The gender breakdown, we had 59% were male, 40% were female, and then other, and we left that out for people that choose to use another moniker by which they determine their gender, was less than 1%. As far as current diet goes, again, we're interested in meat-based diets, not necessarily 100% strict carnivore, but people that mostly use meat. Remember that in this country, 70% of our diet comes from plants. Now, granted, much of that is grains and sugars and seed oils, but those are still plants, and we eat a very small amount of animal food. In fact, 30% of our calories come from animal food, and much of that is dairy, and so the amount of meat we actually eat is actually very, very small relative to the plant food. So when we look at that, when we totally switch that around, in the bottom minimum entry point was at least 70% of your diet being animal food based. And so when we look at that, the people that said 70%, there was 8.5% of them, 80% or more, 14.8%, 90% or more animal foods was 44.8%, and then 100% was about 30% of us were 100% full carnivore. Again, it's a very meat-heavy diet, which is never really, we don't have really any data on that. All we have is standard American data where people eat a little bit amount of meat and a bunch of junk food, and we use all that information to determine what meat-based diets do. The time period, so we didn't exclude anybody for time period. So there was about 6% of the people were less than a month. 1 to 3 months was 20% of the people. 3 to 6 months was 20% of the people. 6 to 12 months was 25% of the people. 1 to 2 years was about 20% of the people, and then greater than 2 years was about 8.5% of the people. And so, pretty interesting demographic group. I think the next video I'll go into some of the findings that we saw that the people answered the question. So that's the demographics. So hopefully stay tuned to the channel, and we'll get some more of that information out to you. And like I said, this will be all compiled in a place. We've got a couple places it's going to be kept. We're going to do more data collection as time goes by. We're going to probably break down as people answer questions about what type of medical problems we had, and we're going to have some specific survey data sent to those people to determine more specifics. Like if they had diabetes, we might ask them about what was your A1C before and after, if you know that. Fasting glucose, fasting insulin, things that are related to diabetes like blood pressure and all those things. So we'll try to get some of that data. About half the people gave us their email, a little more than half, so we'll be able to kind of recontact those people with emails. I mean, like I said, expect a series of surveys going out for select people. Having the email just kind of allows us to kind of better know who we're talking to, so we can kind of tailor what questions we send to those people. Anyway, again, I want to thank everybody for participating. It doesn't look like the vegan mob got in time to do any damage to the results. So that's good. So we got our 10,000 in without a bunch of being skewed data that I can tell, and pretty pleased. And so I think this is going to help move the needle. It'll hopefully getting more information out there. Of course, again, there's going to be critics of this. They're going to say it's not pure science. There's a lot of problems with that, and we really and I readily admit that. We readily admit that, but it does show a large trend that I think is worth investigating with further studies. And again, I'm going to be working on trying to get those things out there as well. Okay, guys, thanks. Go get you some Butcher Box, eat some more meat. I appreciate everybody, as part of this community, and thanks again for your support. Take care.